Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the month of February, which is all things Valentine's. Some of y'all probably love it, some of y'all probably hate it. I, for one, love it. So, on that note, today we're going to talk about the Natasha Denona Love palette. I have a lot of thoughts for you, a demo, swatches, all of that good stuff. I have tried it so that I can share with you my experience with this palette. I think this was a highly anticipated palette, so a lot of y'all are probably like researching if this is right for you. So if you're interested in seeing how this palette worked for me and my thoughts on it, then just stay tuned. Alright, so before we dive into the product itself, let's just go ahead and real quick go into the Sephora details. It is a $65 palette for 15 shades. It is in a more compact version than her others. It is identical in format to the Sunrise palette. And so it comes with 0.65 ounces or 19.25 grams. And it says it's a seductive palette that can be used for playfully bold creations or effortlessly wearable everyday looks. Obviously free of parabens, cruelty-free, that's Natasha Denona. And it says the eyeshadows in this must-have palette are made with the highest quality pure color pigments, dazzling chroma crystals, and luminous mineral pearls for maximum color payoff with minimal effort. So that's what we've got going on as far as the description. So let's go ahead and go into the product itself. So the box is everything you would want in a Valentine's Day theme. It is simple. It's just pink, very pretty. The lettering is in black. I think it's lovely. On the back, it's nothing different from her normal packaging. It's got the layout and the shade names and the ingredients. For reference, this is made in Italy, and I find her shelf life to be pretty consistent for her palettes. This one is a 24-month shelf life, so that's what we've got going on there. The palette itself is absolutely lovely. For a Valentine's Day lover like me, this thing is everything pink and beautiful. It is so girly. Again, it's simple. It's just a beautiful pearly shade of, it's hard to describe. This is like my favorite tone of pink. It's kind of a mix between a baby pink and maybe a salmon to mid-tone pink. I don't know, something about it is just so stunning. And I think the packaging is just beautiful. The back is almost kind of a rubbery feel, and you've got the little holes if you depot and place in your Z palette. This offers that as well. Going into the inside, you have your typical mirror on the inside, and then you have your actual palette. I love that the lining or the rim or whatever you call this, I don't know, it's almost like a hot pink / red, so you've really got Valentine's Day vibes going on. And then you get to the pans of product, same thing. It's a mix of pinks, purples, almost kind of like wine shades. It is very appealing, or a very appealing color story for Valentine's Day. So let me bring you up close. Let's see. Okay. Hopefully not getting you a lot of glare there, but that's really what it looks like. So it's definitely a great variety when it comes to Valentine's Day shades. It's not all pink, it's not all red, it's not all purple. There's a mix of everything. So that being said, I do want to take you into swatches so that you can see what these look like, and then from there we'll go into the demo. First for our first, Lifetime Heartbeat and Transparent. Next up, we've got Trust, Heart, Giving, and Pure Love. This shade Heart was marketed as a true red, and that's from, you know, publicity descriptions and pictures from when this was, before this actually released. Right here we've got Commitment, Blind, Soul, and Passion. Commitment is a matte, but it is one of her cream to powder type of formulas, just like you found, or like you would find in the Cranberry palette. So right here, that swatch is very thin. It's not opaque, but I do point that out, but I also always point out that a swatch doesn't really tell the whole story. You have to use it on the eyes to really determine if it is a good or bad eyeshadow. So I just wanted to point that out because you probably noticed that it's a little bit on the sheerer side. And then the last three that we have are Intense, Valentine, and Dream. I love that the shade names are reminiscent of things related to Valentine's, to the extreme of one even being named Valentine. I think that's really nice. So here we go. These are the last three. This purple, I will also point out, is one of the Cream 2 powder formulas. It is a matte. So again, a little bit on the sheer side for swatching, but that's just pointing that out before we go into the demo. Okay, so that takes care of swatches. Hopefully you found that helpful, beneficial, you know, as to whether they perform or they show up. Let me rephrase, as to whether that color story is what you're looking for in a Valentine's Day palette. So that being said, let's go ahead and go into the demo so that you can see how I put this together and how they perform, how they go on the lid, all of that good stuff. So let's get into that and we'll come back for final thoughts. So to start, I'm going to go in with the shade Intense. It is a lovely kind of mid-tone pink, and I'm just going to lay this down in the, I guess, crease slash transition area. Now, this shade does look very pigmented in the pan, but once you start going in with a brush, it does take a little bit of layering. Now, specifically, I layered this 3 times just so that you can, just for your knowledge, just so that you know what it took to get it to the pigmentation that I have on my eye now. So next up, to deepen it a little bit, I'm going to go in with the shade Heart, and this is the shade that was marketed as a true red. I'm going to kind of place this just a little bit lower than that Intense shade just to kind of add a little bit more vibrancy and a little bit more depth. And now I'm going to go in with the shade Pure Love, and I'm just going to use my finger for this one. This is a little bit of a thinner, drier formula. It is a sparkly shade, not chunky glitter, just kind of sparkles that are within the formula. And I like how it applies better with a finger, even though with a brush it applies just fine. Next, I'm going to go in with the shade Lifetime, and also using my finger, I'm just going to apply this to the center of the lid, and this formula has that same consistency as the last shade that we just used. Alright, now I'm going to go back in with the shade Pure Love, and going in with like a little detailing brush. I want to place it in where my finger couldn't reach, in the little crevice, little corner of the eye, and then also on the outer part, just to kind of blend all those shades together. Next, I'm going to go back in with the shade Intense and I don't know what this brush is even called, a little stumpy brush. And I'm going to place this on the lower lash line. And next up, I'm going to go in with the shade Dream. This is a cream to powder type of formula, similar to what was in her Cranberry palette. And I'm just really going to deepen the outer portion of the lower lash line. I'm not going to drag this the whole way. Now it's time for mascara and liner. Be right back. And lastly, we're going to go in with the shade Giving. And this is more of a topper shade. I'm going to go in to my inner corner with a detailer brush and add that in. And that is the final step, and this is the final look. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you found it easy to follow. All right, my friends, so I hope you found that easy to follow, beneficial, and just kind of, you know, maybe that helped make your decision on whether this palette is right for you. But that aside, let's go into final thoughts, because that may be what you are holding out for the most. So first of all, the packaging is probably one of my favorite types of packaging in like my makeup collection, my eyeshadow palette collection. This is so beautiful to me. It's everything that, it's almost like it has my name on it. It's girly, it's feminine, it's pink, it's just so appealing. Something about it. I love this packaging. I can't say enough about it. So let's get into the inside. Let's go into the mattes first, like I usually do. First off, the cream to powder mattes. I love those, but I love them in the cranberry palette. I know those were kind of a miss when she first released the cranberry palette, and that's why she re-released the cranberry palette with those two matte shades as just strictly powder shades. I have never had issues with them, and in fact, they are very workable for me. I like them, I don't know, dare I say, sometimes even more than just the regular powder formula. They can be very opaque, they're easy to blend, they're easy to build, and this purple is everything Valentine's Day. So those two I love. Just be aware that if you are not a fan of the formula, those two in here are that formula. So just be aware of that. The other mattes, they're nice. I love the colors. I love the shades. However, what I mentioned about the swatches being a little bit sheer, I feel like that does translate when you go onto the eye. So if you noticed, for example, my very first shade that I put in the crease slash transition, I guess, I built it up 2 or 3 times. And that's because I wanted more intensity than I was getting, and so it did take building up. If you buff too much, it shears out quite a bit. So my suggestion would be pack it on and don't buff it out as much if you're not wanting to shear it out, if you're wanting more color or you're wanting more payoff. But I guess you could also argue the point that Valentine's Day is very soft and very romantic, and a lot of people do prefer those kinds of shades that don't plop down as very intense to begin with and that allow for the building up, and you definitely have that with this palette. So that's that. But for my ladies who just really prefer a pow on the eye, like right off the bat, and then being able to buff out and kind of shear down, there's not a whole lot of that. Anyways, so that's that. Aside from that, I find them to be, or the mattes to be, very soft to the touch. They're not dry, they're not stiff, it's just they do take some building up. Now let's get into what I would consider my favorite part of every single palette, and those are the standout shades. The thing about Natasha Denona for me is I love her standout shades. If you watched my ranking video, then you know that the gold palette is my absolute favorite, and the main reason for that is because some of those shades just literally look like liquid metal on the eyes, and I really don't have a palette that has that kind of intensity, quality, and that kind of look. And I love Natasha Denona eyeshadows for that reason. They're bold, they're intense, they're opaque. I'm going to tell you that I did not find that to be true in this palette. The only one I found to really pack a punch was this silver one called, what's it called? Blind. It's blinding. But here's the thing, I'm not a huge fan of silver shades. That's weird because when it comes to jewelry, I prefer silver over gold. But when it comes to my eyeshadow, I prefer gold over silver. Anyways, it is beautiful. The fact that I'm not a huge fan of silver eyeshadows does not in any way, shape, or form detract from the quality and intensity of this. You may be a silver shadow lover, and that one is right up your alley. Now, if you noticed, the two that I put on my lid, I did with my eyes. They do go on fine with a brush. It's not like I can say, oh, they're horrible with a brush. No, they go on fine. When I had to add that little bit of detail on the inner corner where my finger just, you know, wasn't getting in there. And just to add a little bit more, just to kind of make them all mesh, it performs just fine with a brush. I prefer to apply them with my fingers. Every time I've gone in with my finger in these shades, it just packs it on quicker, easier, I think better. I will tell you though that those two shades and then the others that share that same, I would consider finish or formula, they are very, how can I put it? They're not creamy. They're dustier to the touch. And so it was very reminiscent to me of the Coral palette. And if you recall, and if you watched that Dazzled or Disappointed, I wasn't a fan of the Coral palette. And I found several of those to be like that. And I'm like, gosh. So anyways, the last thing I want to say, the one I put in the inner corner, the shade Giving, that one's more of a topper. So It's beautiful in the pan. It looks pink and sparkly. It is more of a topper, and I feel like I've seen a lot of those types of shades being released by brands, and they all share that same thing, that they're more of a topper. They're piecey, they're a little bit chunky, and they are not opaque. So if you're going to go in with that all over your eye, then you're going to see like bald spots on your eye. That's more of a topper, an inner corner, just place it on top. Some people don't mind doing that. That's not my favorite thing, but it is what it is. So that being said, I think it hurts my heart to say this, because what I really want to say is that I like it, I don't love it. My eyes look beautiful. Yes, even I'll say that. And that's not saying, it's not trying to be vain. It's just really saying that the product looks beautiful on the eye, has like a very soft type of look. Again, soft and romantic type of look. What I love about Natasha Denona is the bold. And so what I was really hoping for was that these were going to pack a punch, that I was going to have super intense sparkle, opacity. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was creating or envisioning something in my mind, and that probably set me up for failure as far as disappointment. Remember how I told you that this shade was marketed as being a true red? It's the shade called Heart. I find that when I put it on and start blending it out, it almost kind of morphs into a little bit of a pink. I found that to be true as well with one of the Kylie shadows from her Christmas collection. In the pan, it looks legit true red. You put it on, you start blending it out, and it kind of changes into a pink red. I like true red, despite the fact that it makes you look sick, because then people are like, what's wrong with you? No, I love a true red on the eye. And this just didn't cut it for me. It does almost turn into a little bit of a red pink. And so for me, it ended up, not being a true red. I don't know. If you own this palette, let me know in the comment section below. Does it stay true red on you? Anyways, so just because of the fact I like it, I don't love it, that means I'm pretty much disappointed, because the whole point of this series is to be dazzled, just beyond over the moon about a product. And it hurts my heart truly to say that this wasn't one of them. I love Valentine's Day, and the fact that all of these Valentine's themed products are coming out. This was the one most on my radar. This and her face palette, which I will also be doing a review for. And there's a lot that I very much like about this palette. There's a lot that I also don't, just because I think I set my expectations way up here, and for certain reasons it didn't meet that expectation. But disclaimer, just because something doesn't work for me does not in any way, shape, or form mean it won't work for you, because our tastes are so different. I like bold, I like intense right off the bat. You may like soft and romantic builds, being able to build it up and just reach that intensity after a couple of layers. And that's totally fine too. There's always something for everyone in the makeup industry. So a little bit of a disappointment for me. I'm sorry to say. I know a lot of y'all were hoping this would be a absolute love, Dazzled, but that's what we've got for today. Okay, my friends, I hope you found this video helpful in your quest for whether or not you should purchase this palette. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, just talking about makeup. And before I let you go, I want to give you a quick verse of the day, just in an effort to encourage you, motivate you, add a little bit of sunshine to your day. Today's comes from Psalm 118:14, and it says, "The Lord is my strength and my song. He has given me victory." All right, my friends, thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.